First, I'd like to start off with a little bit about myself. My name is Jamie Price. I am a CLE intern this summer. I am currently going to Florida State University studying political science with a focus in emergency management. With emergency management, I'm mostly focused in preparedness and mitigation. I'll be graduating in December with my bachelor's degree. In January, I'm going to start my master's in public administration at Florida State University. So, what NOAA didn't know. This is mostly going to be discussion-based at the beginning. So I'm going to ask some questions. It's real informal, just kind of answer haphazardly. You don't have to raise your hand or anything like that. And I'm going to refer to a survey a few times. That was something that I just did real quick, spammed it all over Facebook, just wanted to get an idea of some of the answers I might get from you guys. It definitely gave me an interesting perspective on what the general public thinks about some of these topics. So, what are some examples of natural disasters?
Tornado.
Okay, tornado. Hurricane.
Earthquakes.
Earthquake. Floods.
Fire.
Flood. Fire.
Wildfire.
All right, these are all good answers. This is what I got from the survey. They are in order. They will always be in order from decreasing frequency. These are actual answers that I got from there. I think it says a lot about where some of the respondents may have been from. I didn't think of blizzard or sinkhole or any of that type of stuff. So I'm only going to talk about one of these, though. So hurricanes. As we all know, it's hurricane season. With me being from Florida, particularly South Florida, volunteered at the Emergency Operations Center in Collier County for the 2004 to 2008 seasons. I'm passionate about hurricanes. So what are some risks associated with hurricanes?
Drowning.
Okay.
Injury.
Injury, okay.
Disease.
Disease. All right, those are all good answers. Again, this is what I got from the response for the survey. A lot of different things came up with that. Power lines, cost of response and infrastructure loss, that type of stuff. Specifically was mentioned like the healthcare infrastructure loss. So I'm gonna specifically focus on flooding and storm surge. Storm surge is definitely a risk in coastal areas, and then with the heavy rainfalls in the inland areas, the rain can cause flooding there as well. I couldn't, unfortunately, I was unable to find statistics on how often there is storm surge and whatnot related with a hurricane. Either I need to delve a little further into the literature, or maybe I'll do it myself and kind of come up with it, because I was really hoping I could find those numbers. I did find some hurricanes with some storm surge worth mentioning. So these statistics are from the National Hurricane Center, and the death tolls and damage totals are for the whole hurricane, not just the U.S. So Hurricane Opal hit Pensacola, Florida in 1995. With a maximum storm surge of 24 feet, causing 50 deaths and $3 billion in damages. I skipped Hugo, but that hit South Carolina in 1989 with a storm surge of 19.8 feet, 60 deaths, and $7 billion in damages. Obviously, Katrina in 2005 with 28 feet of storm surge, over 1,200 deaths, and over $75 billion in damages. And then Hurricane Ike in Galveston in 2008 was 20 feet of storm surge, over 130 deaths, and almost $25 billion in damages. I also found some facts about hurricanes I'd like to share with you guys. So within the 25 years between 1986 and 2011, there were 335 named Atlantic storms. 176 were hurricanes. 75 of them were major, which means Category 3 or above, which means over 111 miles an hour. From 1990 to 2008, the population density in the United States increased by 32% in Gulf areas and 17% in Atlantic coastal areas. Much of the United States' densely populated coastlines lies less than 10 feet above the average sea level. Half of the nation's economic productivity is within coastal zones. And 72% of ports, 27% of major roads, 9% of rail lines within the Gulf Coast region are less than 4 feet above sea level. So to put all that in perspective, a storm surge of 23 feet can inundate 67% of our interstates, 57% of arterials, 29 different airports, and almost all the ports in the Gulf Coast area. Oftentimes with hurricanes, you'll see deaths. So going with that, I'd like to ask you guys a question. What is the leading cause of hurricane-related deaths? So who thinks it's wind-blown debris? You can just raise your hand on this one. How about tornadoes? Drowning? Anybody else? Accidental injury? Okay. And anything that wasn't mentioned? Alright, awesome. So this is what I got from the survey. A little over 45% said windblown debris, and a little over 37% said accidental injury. So here are the actual results. This is the statistics from a 30-year period between 1970 and 1999. Obviously, it's overwhelmingly drowning, and as you can tell, most people don't assume that. Fortunately, I'm not actually here to talk to you about drowning. I just thought it was a really cool statistic. But I am here to talk to you about the public health effects of flood after a hurricane. So, what are some of the dangers of public health effects of floodwaters?
Waterborne disease.
Okay, waterborne diseases.
Drowning.
Drowning, good call. Anything else? So this is what I got from the survey response. A lot of the things came from, diseases, there's contamination, down power lines. Transportation and communication is a big issue. Roads get flooded, that type of stuff. Power lines or, phone lines, that type of stuff get down. Specifically with the animals and insects, I got an answer about an alligator in the yard and your pug being taken away by floodwaters. So those are some things that people think about when they come up with these types of answers. I'm going to talk about a few of these. So first we have post-flood stormwaters. Post-storm floodwaters, sorry. So storm surge itself inundates the coastal areas, and the heavy rainfall can inundate the inland areas. Floodwaters after a storm don't go away right away. They don't exactly have a place to go. This can cause chemicals from different storage areas and that type of stuff getting into the water, which can go and contaminate the groundwater. There's residual standing water, which is a great area for disease and bacteria to grow and mosquitoes to be able to breed, which can cause all sorts of stuff after that. And the permanent water damage in the buildings can lead to mold and bugs and that type of stuff, along with the water being able to just directly injure people. So first I'm going to talk about sewage, sanitation, contamination issues. So drowning is an obvious issue. I think I may have skipped a slide on that one. Awesome. Going to apologize for not feeling well this morning. Okay, bacteria that's found in the floodwaters can easily contaminate. It's not it either. I'm really sorry.
You're good.
Floodwaters don't have a place to go, so they have to recede back to either where they came from, soak into the groundwater, or go through storm drain channels. On the way to these places, they can cause a multitude of problems. So combined sewage facilities, obviously, with wastewater plants, can cause a lot of problems when they're inundated with water, or they get caught up with debris and that type of stuff. Any of this can cause this to malfunction, which would allow untreated wastewater back into our drinking water areas. Standing water can cause insects and bacteria to grow. All these types of things can get right into your drinking water. Chemicals from agricultural runoff, they get back out into the ocean and that type of stuff can cause algal blooms and that type of thing. And anything that gets into the wells and aquifers can contaminate it. In Sri Lanka, after a flood, drinking water wells were tested positive for E. coli and salmonella. And after hurricanes Katrina and Rita, the wells and aquifers showed an increase in calcium, magnesium, chlorine, and silica from the pre-Katrina levels, as well as testing positive for E. coli. By not having safe water to drink and or to clean with, this causes a huge issue with sanitation. There's a decrease in basic hygiene. People don't have access to toilets and they don't know, they have a lack of understanding and they don't know how to get to clean drinking water. So disease and illness. The bacteria that are found in these waters can easily contaminate an untreated wound, which obviously will lead to an infection. Contaminated water supplies and food can cause communicable gastrointestinal diseases, such as norovirus and cholera, which I may be pronouncing incorrectly. Cholera? Sure. This can all be passed from person to person, and especially in places like overcrowded shelters, which after a storm is a lot of places where people will be going. Other things that can be found are E. coli, salmonella, rotavirus, and shigella. High mosquito populations can increase because of the standing water, which can cause vector-borne illnesses such as encephalitis, malaria, and dengue fever. And respiratory illnesses such as Pneumonia, sinusitis, and tuberculosis can raise because of breathing in aspirated water, debris, sand, that type of thing. After the water recedes, the buildings are wet, they're not dried out properly, they get mold on them, and mold themselves can cause a bunch of different illnesses from the aerosolized spores, toxins, and volatile organic compounds, which can give the risk of respiratory illness. And another really common thing is carbon monoxide poisoning from using gas-powered appliances incorrectly. Water-related injuries. Drowning is obviously an injury. We just discussed that it's the leading cause of death. This happens mostly from when people are trapped in their homes or trapped in their cars because they didn't evacuate in time when they were told to, or they didn't heed a warning to not drive on a road that was flooded or something similar to that. There are strong hidden currents in floodwaters because water's trying to go to the lowest value, elevation, trying to get back to where it belongs. Trauma can include something as simple as a laceration, which is mostly caused by misuse of chainsaws when people are trying to clean up the debris after a hurricane, and obviously building collapses, and then broken bones, sprains, burns, and electrocutions are all very common as well. Insect bites and stings are very common, mostly because they get disturbed, displaced, and aggravated. I don't know if any of you guys know about the floating ant phenomena, but when an area that has an anthill gets flooded, the ants cling together and float on the surface. Most of the times you don't notice them. Anything that touches that water surface, for example, like a foot, will get inundated with that entire colony of ants. That obviously get bites and stings, and if you're allergic, it's a serious issue. Along with bees and wasps and stuff like that. People are allergic to those types of things. You get a lot of anaphylactic shock. Floodwaters aren't ice cold per se, but they are colder than our body temperature. So prolonged exposure can cause hypothermia. And from the spoiled food and contaminated water, you can get malnutrition issues. So why does this all matter? Why am I standing up here telling you the awful things that can happen during a flood? Because there's something as public health officials, as members of the public yourselves, can do. Without me being mitigation and preparedness focused. This is what I do, this is what I'm all about. There's a lot of things that the public can do, once they're educated, to help the government help them. There's nothing you can do to stop the flood. But there is a lot of stuff you can't do. First thing, knowledge is power. The public is aware, they will automatically be more cognizant of what they should be looking for and what they should be doing. They'll be more educated about the risk factors associated with floods, and they can do their part to avoid these problems. Heed the warnings from officials. It sounds simple, it really does, but many people simply don't do it. If the public, government officials or emergency responders are telling you to evacuate, evacuate. They're not doing it just for the fun of it. If they tell you not to go back into your neighborhood afterwards, don't. They say boil your water or don't drink your water, do what they say. The most important thing someone can do is evacuate when they're told, because emergency responders won't go save them in the middle of the storm when they realize they've made a mistake. And they might not be able to get to them quickly after the storm to save them either. Unsafe drinking water has been linked to a number of different illnesses that we just discussed. However, plenty of studies that show that people don't listen to do not drink and boil water notices. They just don't. They'd rather just drink the water that's right there rather than having to go out and get it. By simply following these warnings, you can avoid getting sick or injured. These warnings are only given out when they're absolutely necessary, and it's to ensure the safety of the public. Lastly, have a kit of your own. Ready.gov has all the information you need to put your kit together, everything that you need to be self-sufficient and not have to rely on somebody else after the storm. You should be prepared for at least the first 3 days. First 72 is up to you. It's a really great tagline. It could take up to that long to get things up and running, resources, Red Cross relief, that type of thing. Especially if you're going to a shelter, they might not have everything for a long period of time. You're still encouraged to bring the first 72 hours worth of supplies. Hurricane kits include food, water, medications, clothes, basic hygiene materials. All of this is on that list online. And you should pack everything up, get it ready to go, and be ready for a hurricane. So to summarize everything up, and to tell you the entire take-home message from this entire presentation. Hurricanes are a natural disaster. They cause storm surge and flooding. This causes death, illness, and injury. You can help protect yourself. It's very simple.